Welcome to your next lesson on obtaining your marriage license. In this lesson, we'll go over a few important things you're going to need to know about obtaining your marriage license. There are so many questions that you may not even know where to begin, but we're going to cover all the basics for you so you'll be more than ready when you go to get yours. In this lesson, we'll go over why you need a marriage license, how old you have to be to obtain one, where to go to get your marriage license, the waiting period, if any, what types of documents you will need to file for your marriage license, will you need a blood test, how much a license costs, and whether or not you need to be a resident of the state you're getting married in. So, let's jump right in. First, let's go over the obvious question. Do I need one? Technically, no, you don't. You can have a wedding with vows and all without one. However, you will not be legally married. Who is it recognized by? If you want your marriage, or in other words, your legal union, recognized by the government, you will in fact need a marriage license. Benefits. Couples will need to be legally married by obtaining, filling out, and filing a marriage certificate with their local government in order to share healthcare policies, become beneficiaries for federal benefits like Social Security or insurance policies, as well as receiving tax breaks when filing their taxes jointly. How old do you have to be? In most countries, you need to be at least 18 years of age without parental permission. If you're under the age of 18 and you have parental permission, you can in most states get married legally. So, where do you go to get your marriage license? The most common place to obtain your marriage license is in your county clerk or court clerk's office in the state you plan on getting married. If you don't have a county clerk's office, there are also other places you may need to visit instead to obtain your license, like a town clerk's office, city hall, municipal clerk's office, or the county registrar or recorder's office. Now, and this is very important to not only understand but remember, if you're getting married in a different city than where you reside, you will need to obtain your marriage license in that city. So, make sure in your planning that you leave enough time to do this as the waiting period varies from state to state. For instance, if I live in New York City, but I plan on getting married on the beach in Miami, Florida, I would need to apply for my marriage license in Miami, not New York City. Now, let's go over that waiting period part. Remember, you need first an application for marriage, and this will be what your officiant and witnesses sign on the day of your wedding. And then, in turn, when you send that marriage license back, you will obtain a marriage certificate certifying you are, in fact, legally married. Most states have no waiting period. However, there are some exceptions. This information is important because you will not want to try to obtain your license too early or wait too long. So please, please, please make sure that you research this ahead of time. Know where you'll need to go, how long it will take before you can get married, and how long the license will be valid for. You might be thinking, wait, what? They expire? And yes, they do. Most marriage licenses are good for 30 days in some states and up to 90 days in others. So now let's go over exactly what documentation you will need in order to apply for that marriage license. First is a birth certificate or proof of U.S. citizenship, your driver's license, a passport or military ID, a social security card, a death certificate if you're widowed, a divorce decree if you're divorced, and you'll want to make sure you check your state's requirements for any additional documentation that may be needed. Okay, please do not panic if you're missing one of these documents. Here is where you can get a copy of all of these items. Your birth certificate or proof of citizenship can be obtained at www.usa.gov/replace-vital-documents. Your driver's license can be obtained at your local DMV. For your passport, you can visit your local post office or passport agency. For your military ID, Go to www.usa.gov/military-records. Your Social Security card can be obtained by visiting your local Social Security office. A death certificate, if you're widowed, can be, you can order copies of the death certificate, and you'll want to contact the county or state's vital records office in the place where the death occurred. A divorce decree, if you're divorced, you will need to get this from the county clerk's office in the county you were divorced in. Blood tests. Now, I had to mention this because the question comes up quite often, as it used to be a law. Well, back in the dinosaur era. No, just kidding. Actually, it was back in the 1920s that this law came into effect because of the sexually transmitted disease syphilis and also rubella. It was such a widespread public health epidemic at the time that counties would not grant marriage licenses until the infection was treated. It was a major concern because if a couple were to marry and the wife became infected and then became pregnant, the fetus would most likely suffer from serious heart problems, congenital abnormalities, and neurological problems. By the 1980s, there were so few tests that came back positive that the law was reversed in most states. But again, it is still in effect in Montana for females and the District of Columbia. So if you currently live there, you will in fact be required to submit a blood test and have it return negative before you can be issued a marriage license. How much does it cost to get a marriage license? Well, the cost varies from state to state and county to county. And you can expect to pay between $5 and $100 for a marriage license. And if you attend premarital counseling, you're sometimes given a discount on the cost of the license itself. You should also know that non-residents can expect to pay more for a marriage license than those who live and get married in the same state. You should also know that in some states like Las Vegas and Hawaii, amongst others, they only accept cash. So you'll want to inquire about the payment options when inquiring about the requirements in the county you plan on getting married in. Another question that comes up often amongst brides is, do I have to be a resident of the state that I'm getting married in? And the short answer is no. As long as you have the proper ID and payment, you can obtain a marriage license in any state in the United States. Now, the only time this could potentially be an issue is if you planned on getting married in one of those states that haven't fully evolved into the 20th century and still do not recognize same-sex marriage. But that's a debate for another time. In my humble opinion, why would you even want to get married in a state that doesn't recognize your union to begin with? But again, I digress. And the last thing I wanted to mention before we close out this lesson is the marriage license requirements when you're planning a destination wedding. Let's say you currently live in the United States, but you plan on getting married in Aruba with just a few close family and friends in attendance. You will need to file for a marriage license in whatever country you're getting married in. Now, I say if you want to make it easier when doing a destination wedding and you want to have a marriage license from the country you actually reside in, then my advice would be to go to your local county clerk's office or wherever you obtain your marriage license from, and you can get married before a justice of the peace or an appointed clerk officer there along with a witness, and you could go on your lunch break, or you could even go whenever you choose, just so you have the legal document, and then you can perform your ceremony anywhere you choose, and you'll still have a legal document as proof of marriage in the country you reside in. And you should know, once you're married, if you choose to move to another country, you will not have to file for another marriage certificate, no matter where you choose to move. I know this was a lot of information and you might be a little overwhelmed, but trust me, it really isn't. It's just important to keep all of this in mind. So again, here's a breakdown of the steps to remind you. Make sure you bring your ID and payment to your clerk's office. If you do not get your marriage license on the spot, wait for the waiting period to be over and then go pick up the license. You can get married by a certified wedding officiant. Have that officiant and a witness sign the marriage license. Take that signed license and drop it off to the same clerk you got it from. And then after a week or so, you'll be mailed or can pick up an official marriage certificate. And to make it even easier, here's a website you can refer to which will outline most states' requirements when it comes to the waiting period, blood tests, and how long the license is good for. Now, let's wrap up this lesson by going over some tips to remember when applying for your marriage license. Make sure you have all of your necessary documents with you when you go to apply. Check your state and county rules on marriage licenses. Be sure to check how long they're valid for and how long you have to mail the signed license back. And ask your officiant if they will submit the license or if you have to. So I hope this has helped you a bit. Remember, this really is one of the most important steps you must take before you can get married in the first place. And as long as you do your research and have all of your ducks in a row, it really shouldn't be too daunting of a task. Thank you for joining me in this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one.